Hello y'all on YouTube, this is Rob with Rob's Nerdy Knives. Today we have a very special review impressions of a knife that was given to me in the pass around group, and I got a chance to check this out. I'm really excited to check this out. This is a knife it's made by Tuya Knives, and the designer is Jim Skelton. Really cool designer. He came out with a version 1 of this. This is the Caladan version 2. And this one is really, really stinking cool. I really like this. Again, the knife manufacturer is Tuya Knives, and the name of it is called the Caladan version 2. And what makes this one really cool? Well, we've got this beautiful frag pattern, titanium, and this frag pattern works really well. I've had another knife from Tuya Knives that was the Wrath that I got to review. The frag pattern was a little rough. I really liked it, but it was just too rough. And I'm glad that they took that and made this a little bit better. And I'm hoping that Wrath comes out in a new version with this same frag pattern, because this works. This is nice. This is along the lines of like my Pena X series, my Bravo, that has a frag pattern. Very smooth, but texture enough to give you grip, but not enough to destroy your pocket or other things. So that's really nice. The other thing that's really cool about this knife, it is DLC coated, beautifully done, nicely DLC. S90V blade steel, which is great hard steel, really great for sharpening, good edge retention, beautiful swedge on top. This is fantastic, great weight relief inside. It is a frame lock. You have a mill deep pocket carry clip that has a nice flexibility, goes in and out really well. It is not reversible, so it's right hand tip only. So, you know, there's that. I know a lot of lefties sometimes carry their right hand tip-up only knives in a left pocket and rear pocket, so I guess that could work. Lockup is about good 40-50%, I would say, so it's nice and solid. No blade play, it's in there solidly, no pivot play. It locks in, you can hear this nice detent, nice click, no detent lash. Beautifully centered in this case. So let me get the light. So it is centered, I want to say it goes, oh, here, hold on. No, it is centered. Looks like it's just the one where the edge is. Yeah, so this edge, you see, it's a little shorter right there at the tip. I don't know if you can see that. And this one's a little longer. So it always throws me off when you have that, because it always makes it look like it shifts. And I'm looking at it from the perspective of, yeah, it might be off a little bit on this one, but it's not mine. And so what I would normally do is I would tighten it, loosen it, maybe swap out the bearings, put skiffs in there, and a lot of times it fixes everything. Clean it out. Those are things that I would do, but it's not my knife. It's a pass around, so I'm going to leave it as is, right? Maybe tighten up the pivot a little bit. That would work. But again, it's not my knife, so I don't want to mess with this. I'm going to give it back to the people, next person, in the state I received it in. So we're just going to do that. But man, I'm enjoying this knife. I got to tell you, I like what he did here. Now, I'll be honest with you, it's outside my aesthetic. I have a certain aesthetic that I prefer. You probably can see from a lot of the knives in my collection. I get it. But this one is a little far out there for me. But I like everything about this knife. That, you know, if the design was a little bit different, maybe I'd be right on board. I like everything that's being done. So does it mean because it's outside my aesthetic I can't recommend it? Absolutely not. You know, just because it's not something I like right now doesn't mean it could be something I like down the road or something that you could love, right? So there's that. And I think that's definitely makes you worth checking it out, okay? It is a captive pivot. The version 1 was not a captive pivot. This is, and that to me is really important. I'm really excited to see that. Love the DLC. Love the lockup. The action is gorgeous. I mean, beautiful drop shot action. Now, I granted that probably is a little with the DLC coating on there. It doesn't hurt, especially with the ceramic ball bearing in there. It does have a steel bar insert over travel stop, so that's nice. Tuned really well. I like the tuning. I don't feel like this has to be adjusted. The cutaway and the access to the lock bar is fantastic, beautiful. It's not exhausting, it's not tiring, it doesn't hurt your finger. You can fidget this all day long, and that is really, really stellar. Now, the only thing I do notice, it's a little sharp on the edges right here. So with DLC, I can't polish that, I can't smooth that out, and that's kind of a bummer, right? If it was a polished blade and it wasn't DLC coated, that's something I could sort of fix on my own, but that's the only thing I would say. If I could fix something in a newer version, it's just to make sure it's not quite as edgy right there, because when your finger goes on there, you can feel that after a while, right? I mean, maybe not for the average person, but that's just, it's a nitpick, right? I'm just gonna tell you, I'm watching everything on this thing. But overall, is it like a deal? No, absolutely not. Now, another thing that's kind of a thing that I wish they would do differently is T8s. These are T6s, which I get. T6s on that and T6s here. It'd be cool to have T8s. It's always nice if you can get T8s to get T8s. A little easier to work with, less chance of stripping out the screws and things like that. Because a lot of us will take them apart, put skiffs in, maybe just clean it out, whatever, you know, tune it, whatever you do, you know, that you would. Now, the other thing that kind of bums me out is you have 3 holes here. To me, it seems like, why couldn't you just bring this up, right? Now, I don't know if it's because this shape, if you brought it up, it would stick out and didn't look right, and then you feel like you'd have to, and then maybe that changed everything. I get it. Okay, fair enough. But I would love to have seen that go just a little bit higher. I mean, it's relatively deep, but it's not as deep as it could have been. Then you can be super deep. I think that would have been cool. And if you did that, you could maybe have leveraged over here and just had a second screw that could have been recessed there as well, and then that could have been used on the other side. I don't know. I think maybe that would have been cool. Because I don't know if is this a cutout? Yeah, it is a cutout in here. So maybe you could lay it flat on there. I don't know. Just a thought. Kind of open up the door to lefties. Maybe not for everybody, but certainly something worth considering. All right, so let's talk a little bit about, we talked about the materials, we talked about the opening, closing, beautiful. It does have beautiful action. We talked about the frame lock. We talked about, now the other thing I think that would be nice, it is rounded on the corners here. It's not super sharp, but it would be nice if it was just chamfered a little bit more. Now I know for big hands, this is gonna be great. You're gonna love this, but you know, when you work this knife pretty hard, and if you don't have gloves, those edges will start to dig in after a while. They really will. And it would be nice just to have a little, ever so slightly chamfered right there. Maybe round it. Maybe round is more expensive. Maybe just chamfer. Just a very small 45-degree chamfering. Just at least in the areas that you're going to really be gripping it the most, right? So these rounded, especially with this belly sticking out, because that really does protrude into the hand. And when I squeeze down on that, you know, now granted, I have large hands, and I know Jim probably has, I think, like 5X hands or something. His hands are probably make Shaquille O'Neal's hands look small, right? But he's got big hands. I get it. And this is a knife that fits an extra large, double extra large, triple extra large hand really, really well. I get that. But it would be nice just to have a little bit of rounding. To me, it's just a small aesthetic, a small ergonomic thing that makes a difference in a long-term use of a knife. It, for me, is, you know, I can use this knife and it's nice and it's great, but after a bit of use, it starts to dig in and you get uncomfortable with it. They're those, I call them like the, I don't know what, I've been thinking about it. The term I guess I would say is they're little things they are collection killers, right? They're little small things in the knife that make it, that take it out of your collection. It kills it for being part of your collection. And for me, those little things are, you know, being able to flip and not have it dig in, you know, not a big deal. The edges right here, that does kind of come into the ergonomics of all the time working with it, right? T6 screws, I can get past that. If everything else is done wonderfully, it's a disappointment, but I can get past that. You know, having an extra, you know, not as high pocket carry clip is kind of a bummer. Not a killer as well, right? You know, obviously I have a Rick Hinder knife. I've owned a Chris Reeve knives. They're all, you know, not super deep carry knives. I get it. But those are just a couple small things I would love to see, but it's executed so well. Overall, it's just really fantastic. Love a lot of things about this. The DLC is one of my favorite right here. Just love that DLC coating. It's just done so well. Really nice. The edge is nice and sharp, except for that little tip, like, you know, and I always notice that when that little thing is off, it kind of gives that illusion that it's off. And that's the bummer about that. And I have to get it in the right, yeah. It makes me wonder if maybe if I tighten that up, would that fix it? I think I did it on the unboxing video and it was a little loose. So anyways, but I wasn't going to put any Loctite in there, and so maybe it's traveled since then. All right. Again, it's not my knife. I'm not going to mess with it, okay? I'm just going to give my impressions and pass it along. I know some of you guys just fix it. No, it's not my knife. I don't get to do whatever I want with a pass along. I got to respect that for the next person. I'm not going to hard use it. I'm not going to cut things. I'm not going to give it to the next person dirty, used, whatever. I'm going to give it to the condition that I got it in because I'm appreciative to be a part of that. And that's what I'm doing, right? All right, so we talked about the blade. We talked about, now the blade shape here, to me, this looks like a drop point, classic drop point. I guess you could call it a spear point, sort of looks like it maybe, you know, kind of has that look, but it has too much of a drop here. So to me, I'm gonna classify this as a drop point. I get some other people might call this something different, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what he calls it. I'm looking here to see if he had a name for it, but there's a lot of writing there, so I can't really read it in there. Yeah, anyways. All right, but it is a S90V, and I like that. S90V is going to be great edge retention, so that's always really nice. A little tougher than S110V too, I believe, if I remember correctly. I think that's cool. All right. All right, so we talked about that. Cage bearings, we open and close, the frame lock, all that stuff works really, really nicely. All right, so let's do some measurements, okay? So we're gonna measure the overall weight of the knife here. So let's do that. All right, I'm gonna guess maybe 4.5 ounces. I don't know. Let's see. 5 ounces. So it's a 5-ounce knife. 5 ounces, and you know it's a pretty chunky kind of a knife. It's a bigger knife, so that makes sense. So 5 ounces. Let's look at the overall length on this knife. I mean, you can go to their measurements, but I like to just show it so you can see it. This is 8.5 inch overall. The grip area is going to be about 4 and I want to say 4 1/3 of an inch. So that gets you the extra large, double extra, triple extra large. The overall blade length, if you go from the tip to the top of the handle, you're about 3.75 inches. The overall cutting length is going to be just under 3.5 inches, maybe right at 3.5 inches. It looks like, yes, probably right at 3.5 inches, right? I'm going to take this out because it does can go all the way into the scale. So I want to do that so I can get the blade stock thickness. I want to make sure I'm centered. So I just got to get a feel for how I close it. All right, so we're looking at 148 thousandths of an inch. So it's 0.148, almost 0.15. It's right between 0.1, 0.2 inches. It's a pretty thick, robust blade. Definitely a nice, big, strong blade. It's got a nice pokey tip. Great for getting into dog food, cat litter, mulch, fertilizer, opening up cases of water, lots of your Amazon packages, Christmas, birthday, anniversary, whatever else you need to get into and open up. This is a really useful tool. The nice strong frame lock that engages well. I mean, it's going to be nice and solid. It's going to be a good workhorse kind of knife. I like that. I like that a lot. So where does this knife category fit in? Is this a regular knife or is it a high-end knife? Well, it's listed at $280. So I'm going to call this in that top area of that regular knife. It's just under $300. So it's definitely in the regular knife category, but it's definitely in the higher end. It's done really, really well. I like it. I like it a lot. So I think it's pretty cool. Now, what do I think? EDC hard use collection piece? Yeah, it could be all the above. I think it's great for EDC, and it'll be a great EDC for larger people, for larger hands, and people who like bigger knives. For people who like smaller knives, it's a little big. You might still enjoy it for EDC and collection hard use, but it's not going to be a really small, compact kind of a subtle little knife. It's definitely it's a bigger one, right? Anything I think above 8 inches, 8.5 inches for sure is you get up there to that gets to be pretty large. So it is what it is. I think definitely hard use, but again, I wouldn't go whacking logs and cutting trees down and all sorts of stuff like that at all. Just keep that in mind. You've got to keep that kind of perspective there. So there you go. Could it be a collection piece? Absolutely. I think it's unique. It's different. It's going to be limited run. So for sure. There you go. So the ergos, overall design, I like it. I like the design. It's kind of, it's contoured. It's beautifully fragged. The frag is fantastic. This is what I want frag to be like, right? It's very usable. It's not overly aggressive, but it's got enough texture for grip. It's functional. It's functional and aesthetically pleasing and looks good. And now I wish, ergos was a little not as harsh on the corners. That would be nice. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's not cutty sharp. I mean, I had a Flytanium knife that they came out with. I think it's the Arcade. It was really sharp on the edges. I hope they fixed that, but that was really sharp. Good thing I got the plain titanium one. I was able to round that a little bit. Worked perfect. But this one is close, but it's not there. But it'll still work. But after a while, that might be important to you, so keep that in mind. The closing and opening is beautiful. It's got nice jimping. That works really well. Typically, this is my finger's not going to slide off. It's going to work really great. The only issue I have with the flipper, like I said, it's a little edgy on the two sides. So if you're perfectly even going on there, it's going to work beautifully, like a dream. You're never going to have an issue. The problem you're going to have is when you use this knife and you get that angle, like right, I'm at that angle. And when I push that, then that little edgy part's going to start digging in. And that could be uncomfortable. So if you're always perfectly, dead center, even night like that, no problem whatsoever. That's going to be fine. But the closing is gorgeous. Just that drop shut, and you clear the detent ball right there. And that's well before you catch it with your finger. So you're not going to have that guillotine on your finger. This is one of those I can close with one hand, drop, catch, and then let it close. I like that. I like that for fidget goodness, right? To me, that's fun. So opening and closing is great. What is my fidget factor? Well, it's a flipper only. okay? It's a flipper only, and I just tried to flip it with a weird handle. I don't flip like that. I flip like this. So if you're trying to do this because I'm trying to show it to the camera, that's asking for failure because I can't get my finger right there. Anyways, yeah, but it flips well. It does flip really well, and I got to give him that. It flips well. So this is going to get it's like a 2.5 to 3. I'm going to give it a 3. This is going to be fidgety goodness 3 because it flips really well. It's up there, man. It's really up there. And the D10 is just really crisp and it's really solid. And I don't know if I can fail it. Let me see. Can I? I can't. And that was with my finger on the frame lock too. Let me take it off and see if I do it without the frame lock. No, no, I can't fail that. So that's cool. See, the flipper, that's really good. So yeah, it's going to be a solid 3. I'm going to give that solid 3. So fidgety goodness. Because it's a little edgy at times, that takes some points off. Because after a while, that might dig into me. I'm going to give it a 90. Okay, it's going to give it a 90. It's not quite 100. You know, there's just small aesthetic things. If that was just a little softer, if that had the little edge on the side was just not quite as aggressive, I would be more prone to give that 100. But I mean, it's solid. It's really good. Really, really good. So definitely give my thumbs up for this one, for sure. All right, so the purpose. I'm sorry, the overall design, the fidget factor, we talked about fidgety goodness, 90%. So what are my overall thoughts? My overall thoughts on this are, I'm going to recommend it. Absolutely. It's outside of my wheelhouse right now, for at least for what I like right now. So it wouldn't be in my collection, but it is a joy to check out. I love the build. I love the design. I think everything that it intended to do, it does it really well. It's a unique design. You kind of get that kind of like, I don't know what the shape I'm seeing here, but it's cool, right? And when the blade is deployed, it works in hand. It's a nice solid grip. I like that. I like that left-handed. I like that right-handed, right? That's nice. It works well. Oh, I forgot to talk about nice jimping up there. So all that works really well. So I'm definitely going to recommend this knife. I think it's definitely something you should maybe consider in your collection. So there you go. So let's go ahead and take a couple of close-ups here so you guys can see that beautiful DLC coating on there and the frag pattern. Just see how that nicely works. I think that's just gorgeous. All right, and I'm going to do a quick zoom on the blade with the DLC. I'll do the back. You can see the S90V there. That's really nice. And then look at the frag pattern scales and the clip. And then here's a frag pattern other side with a nice captive pivot. And then there's a backspacer. There's a lanyard little loop in there. You can get a lanyard in there. It's a very small, subtle. I like it, by the way. I think that's really nicely done. Lanyard people still have their lanyard, but it's nice and out of the way. I think that's cool. All right, so that's the knife. That is the Caladan version 2. I think it's a really cool knife. I'm highly recommending it. Definitely, if it's in your wheelhouse, your aesthetic, go for it. I think it's a good buy. If it's not in your aesthetic, you know, I think there's other things out there, but you know, not everybody's going to love every knife. And sometimes there's knives that you may not normally be a fan of, and this speaks to you. Go for it, right? I just feel like it's going to be it's a solid buy if you get it. Okay, let me just tell you that. It's a solid buy if you get it. If you're on the fence, you're wondering, is this going to be worth it? Yeah, I think so. I think you're going to be happy. So, hey, if you found this content fun, interesting, worthwhile, and you liked the video, would you please consider, sorry, let me try that again. I can't talk. If you found my content fun, interesting, and worthwhile, would you please consider liking the video? And if you've already liked the video, would you consider subscribing to the channel? Watching the videos, liking the videos, and subscribing really helps out the channel. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate you for doing it. So thank you. Thank you so much. It allows the channel to grow, become bigger, produce more content, do more things for you guys. So thank you. And if you haven't already, hit that notification button so you can be notified of future content. Also, if you're a channel member, I want to say a big shout out, a big thank you to you guys. I appreciate you. You guys were instrumental in this channel beginning, and you still are. It really helped me with a lot of expenses to cover the cost of shipping, getting these knives to the pass around, because it costs money to ship these guys. And we have to insure these, and some of these knives aren't cheap. So, you know, there's expenses there, and I really appreciate you guys for that. And if you're on the fence and you think, hey, I'd like to become a member, because I do give a sticker to everybody who just became a member and you haven't gotten a sticker yet. There is a once a month giveaway to channel members, and there's, you know, if you're in some of the top tiers, you get exclusive content, some other things, and you get a very exclusive top tier sticker, holographic sticker that I like to give out. So just that's my big way to say thank you. Thank you to every one of you guys, and I appreciate you. So I just want you to know that. Yeah. So if you are, I would love to have you, but don't feel obligated, just if you want to. And I would appreciate it if you do. All right, with all that being said, if you haven't already, maybe check me out over on Instagram at robs_nerdy_knives. Again, that's on Instagram at robs_nerdy_knives. Thanks so much for watching today. Have a great day and a great week. Bye.